to Dads is a podcast to help men understand and navigate the transition of being a single dude into a family man. How do we make sense of it all? Well, we probably won't be able to, but let's go ahead and have some fun trying. And we're back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is Dudes to Dads.
That's right.
Alan, always good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you.
It's been a whole week.
It's been a whole week, exactly.
I feel like just, time goes so fast. It feels like we were just in these chairs.
Exactly.
But some interesting stuff. I think I had mentioned I was at a baby shower. I mentioned this on the last podcast.
Yeah.
And one of the soon-to-be dad, everyone's like, oh, how you feeling? Are you excited? So, of course, my strange mind and how it works.
Exactly.
I had asked him, I said, what's your biggest fear of being a dad?
Because I remember as uncomfortable as possible.
Totally. I was kicked out of the party.
Exactly.
But I was curious because I recall that transition of going from, single guy, which is what we have here, the Dudes to Dads.
Sure.
There was a lot of fear.
Oh yeah.
Different.
A lot of fear pops up in my head just thinking about it. I'm not expecting at this point, right. And I'm thinking
that you know of.
I know of. Yeah. I better check my resources.
And I asked. I said, what is your biggest fear?
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, nobody's asked me that question, which was cool. It was unique.
Breaking new ground.
And we kind of just, it was a short conversation, but it was basically, it's like, almost everything. Like, am I able to provide for this, this new baby? Is it going to be healthy?
So yeah, big thing.
There's all kinds of issues that come up. So
right.
I thought, what a great topic for an episode.
Yeah. And I know we covered a little bit about that with one of the dads from the meetup group had talked about his experience with the nightmare thing.
That's right.
When he was in the emergency room.
Yes, Mike.
That was kind of an extreme. Yeah, Mike. It was an extreme example of that, but I mean, that's kind of the list.
Well, that's one of your worst fears.
For sure.
And we're going to get into that because there's some of those. So the topic is really about your top fears of becoming a dad.
Yeah,
and the fear really starts when you find out you're pregnant.
Right.
There's certainly probably fears before that where you're trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking about all the things that are going to happen.
Sure.
But basically, when you find out that you guys are pregnant, all this stuff kicks in. You start evaluating your life. You start looking at your current job situation.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that happen. And I think for many, one of the biggest is simply the process of
Yeah.
delivery and labor itself.
Sure.
And I think that's what you had said is Mike, who was here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, he had expressed a story where, there was some extreme trauma.
Mm-hmm.
He felt like, all the nurses come in, he doesn't know what's going on.
It's a pretty early episode, actually.
Yeah. And that is a huge fear when you find out that you're pregnant, is to say, God, I just, want to make sure everything goes okay.
Yeah. It's hard enough getting to that stage, let alone raising the kids.
So the labor itself, encompasses a lot of things. It's, you have to actually witness this being coming out of your wife. Whether it's a traditional pregnancy or C-section or whatever.
Yeah.
We happened to go through a C-section, and where literally I saw my wife's, stomach open.
Yeah.
With the baby coming out, and we had a little bit different. We had some insight. My wife is a nurse practitioner, and there was. So we actually, I don't want to say VIP. I'm not going to say that, but we were friends with the doctor, or she had a relationship with the doctor, and so it was a little bit different. Where I may have had a little bit of more access to the visual.
Yeah,
which I didn't necessarily need.
Right.
It's funny. People are like, "Well, are you going to take pictures?" I'm like, No, I don't know that I need to relive that. It's like there's that commercial. I forget it was going around YouTube where you want to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And if you're taking pictures, you're not really in the moment.
I know.
You're kind of taking a picture of a birthday.
How about real life? Yeah. That's being in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was okay with just seeing it that one time.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily need to see it on video.
It. Yeah. Let's play that again.
Look at
everybody.
Wow,
that was traumatizing. Do that again.
So I think that process of labor and seeing, if you're somebody who gets a little queasy or, something, that could be the fact.
Squeamish.
And for our son, who was the firstborn, seeing this baby come out and then scream, which, I don't know where my son got his strong, loud voice, but yeah, a little sarcasm there. But basically the nurse or the nurses turned over and was like, whoa, that's a set of lungs. So that in itself was just like that whole process is scary. It just is, because it's so unfamiliar unless you've seen it or witnessed it or something.
Yeah, or if you have family have gone through that or something.
Yeah, and usually necessarily they're not in the labor or in the room.
Exactly, right? Even if you have gone through it, you're not there to witness all that. Yeah.
So the fear of labor itself is one of the things. The second thing, I would say is during the pregnancy, the fear of health issues with the baby. So kind of even prior to it being born, you go through all these checkups, you go through all that. That's a big fear too, where you just want the baby to be healthy.
Yep.
And
I mean, there's a reason why moms don't drink and don't eat sushi and don't, like, there's a variety of things that they just kind of cut out. Like you hear about, I've heard from expecting moms that they change their diet completely.
Yeah.
So
it's a very delicate time where you're just, I don't want anything to affect it. I don't, and I found myself worrying, which, granted, I'm a little bit more worrier and type A than many, but I think in general, these are things that guys worry about. So almost all of these are things that I've worried about, but this is also collective.
Yeah.
Not only guys I talk about and things and articles and things, but it's just in general, you have this fear because you want this baby to be healthy. That's such an important aspect of the birth of the child.
Right.
So that's, sort of the second thing. The third is the health issues after pregnancy. So after the baby's born, you constantly are worrying.
Yeah.
And that's a fear, I'd say, leading up to it too, is like, is this baby going to be healthy? Am I going to be able to have a normal child that doesn't have issues? And, and we've talked about many of, even children with issues and how difficult that can be.
Sure.
And so you start to worry about that and you start to think it's like, what if something happens?
Yeah.
Or what if you're not healthy?
Yeah, there's all kinds of disorders that can develop and you don't even know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So that's a big fear as well.
Right.
The fourth one, and this is, I would say, in addition to labor, this is probably the number one fear that men have when they are maybe in a more traditional situation where the wife maybe doesn't work or works part-time or whatever, and he is the major breadwinner of the family.
Yeah.
Can I provide financially?
Yeah.
Can I afford this?
That's one of, I think, my biggest concerns, especially before I was making what I make now, even now, it's not like grandiose, just bling bling money. But at the same time, I think that was one of the main reasons why I never thought about having kids earlier, because I was not set for myself, and I don't want my kid going through that on top of
the struggle.
Yeah. It's not fair in my opinion, it wasn't fair to them. But that being said, my parents weren't rich when I was born either.
There's plenty of poor people who do it.
If my mom and dad thought that way, I wouldn't have been born.
Of course, there are costs associated with having a child.
Yes.
A lot. I mean, they have, there's data that supports, the hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they're 18.
Well, yeah, but
but you figure out a way to make it, your expenses change.
You definitely
of what you're spending.
Switch gears,
formula, and those kinds of things, diapers.
Yeah.
We've been so fortunate. Whether it has been, I remember because my wife was a nurse and she had some connections, and like they would drop off, and she was breastfeeding, and she had a connection to somebody who was like a formula rep or something like that. Oh. And they gave us a tremendous amount of samples when she was supplementing and so we started on some formula.
Yeah. So,
I mean, we're talking about really expensive stuff that we got, and then clothes, like everybody was a hand-me-down. And I mean, there's so many resources by having this network around you that you didn't realize, wow, that was really advantageous to go through that, because the expenses, I mean, you look if you go into the grocery store, things like formula are behind lock and key. They have the alarms.
Oh, really? Because there's so many people stealing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I didn't think about it.
It's one of the most stolen items that there are in the grocery store.
I never thought about that, because I see that like razors.
Yeah, no, they have like behind the lock and key, and next time you go into the store, check it out.
That's crazy.
It's true. It's true. A little bottle of stuff can cost $20-$30. And you think about like a child who's eating 3 or 4, 5, 6 times in a day, whatever it is. I mean, it's crazy. So financially, will you be able to afford it? You do have to sort of plan. And like you said, you have to at least feel somewhat ready.
Yeah.
I was definitely not stable. Being entrepreneurial and everything else, it's never stable.
Right.
But you kind of, this was one for me of how to provide financially and will I be able to, and the cost. So I don't know if it was the number one fear, but it certainly was high up there for me.
For sure. Yeah. I think the health of the baby for me would be number one, but for two, that comes across my mind throughout the entire time. Right. It's a lingering fear,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The financial aspect.
Yeah.
Number 5, will I ever get to sleep again? So
that's a loose fear for me. And I like my
It's
sleep.
legit.
Yeah.
It's a legit fear. Your first couple of months, you're sort of zombied, you're a zombie. And, depending on the scheduling of both of you and who's doing what, if you're sharing that time or versus like one's taking care of it, it can be difficult.
Yeah.
And I think I had mentioned in the past where my wife did the majority of the night feedings and things like that. And I was working our second child with my daughter, she pretty much did almost all of it, and there were occasions, where I may have assisted, but really because she was breastfeeding and doing, and so in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Even if you got up and if the baby's hungry, then it's like,
I can help her.
Yeah.
But do you need both people? And so we sort of were able to get by that way.
Yeah.
It worked for me. I think I got the long stick on that one.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Maybe you trade places later. Oh, you bring them to the bus more or something. Yeah. They get older.
I promise when he's 2, 3, I'll do everything. Yeah.
I'll do more disciplining.
Yeah. So, will I ever get to sleep again? You will. There are certainly people that it takes a long time to do that. There's sleep experts out there. There's audio programs and books on how to get your child to sleep. And I read a lot of that and did a lot of that. But they can sleep once they sleep through the night. All of a sudden, like I remember my wife and I looking at each other, and it had been like 6 hours or something like that. And like we both woke up and like looking at each other, like.
The baby alive?
That's it. Yeah. And you get freaked out and you like go and check and make sure he's breathing. And, but yes, you will get your sleep back. Yeah. And we taught our kids to be good sleepers. They now sleep well.
That's great.
And it was a lot of it was just training over and over. Yeah. A lot of sleepless nights.
Oh, for sure.
Say, but it worked. And this is a big one. They're all big ones.
Yeah, exactly.
The fear of having sex during pregnancy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's for some guys they don't care.
Yeah.
Even the physical aspects of your wife's body will change
for sure.
There's all kinds of things.
There's an organism growing in her. I hope it would change.
But
somewhat.
There's all kinds of stuff that happens. And so there is that fear of hurting the child.
Yeah.
In some aspects.
That's what I've heard from expected dads and even comedians who kind of went through that thing. They kind of talk about like, am I going to hurt the baby or something?
Right.
And it's like,
well, but even like how you lay or, not even just intercourse itself, but like how you're laying.
Just laying on top of them in general would be like a tough act.
Yeah. So you do have to
adjust.
That's a good word. You have to adjust that.
Yeah.
And I think that's certainly a fear, but doctors will say they can. Now, whether a woman's going to feel like that or not, I think that's woman to woman. That's dependent on the woman.
Yes.
There are some women that experience a healthier, more aggressive sex drive,
right?
And there's going to be women who are like,
get off me.
Yeah, don't touch.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on how they are feeling and stuff. So you've got to gauge that, and that's really an individual thing. So
yeah, for sure.
And along that same line, number 7, will having the baby kill our intimacy, just in general?
Yeah.
The overall answer is probably yes, for a short amount of time, and same thing. It depends on the woman and how you are. If you're not supportive and you're not caring and you're not showing affection and that kind of stuff, that's not going to help your situation.
It convey the right way. Yeah.
People say, well, I'm not sure if I want to have it. It's going to ruin our sex life or whatever. You then have to communicate and it can adjust, So yes, when you are childless, you probably have a greater frequency of intimacy. But as you have the child and you're sharing this, I think it depends. I mean, a lot of these depend
for sure. Yeah, and defining intimacy, it might be changing form rather than being exactly what it was before. It may turn into something.
Yeah, I mean,
different.
you think about somebody. If your wife is breastfeeding and she's getting up every couple of hours, probably it's not going to be on her mind,
right?
That you know what? I really need some of that right now.
Yeah,
and like, what do you need? I mean, they're really tending to that baby, especially in the beginning. And it can be hard for dads. I mean, it can be hard whether they feel neglected, they feel like, they're not getting the attention. So you kind of have to adjust a little bit.
Right.
And you have to adjust to say, you know what? The focus is the baby right now. How can I help? And that's going to probably be your best is helping her, helping with the baby, and doing that. And that's going to be where you're going to feel probably a little better connection with her and such by doing that.
Right.
The other, keeping along the sex topic.
We like that, Duck.
Yeah. Having the fear of having sex after childbirth.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the woman's body can change. The feeling may change. Your feeling towards her changes.
Yeah, I always thought about the psychological.
This is the child's mom now.
Yeah, it's like, that's my baby's mama. I can't be banging on that.
No, it can affect it.
I feel like that psychological thing, it would trip people out too. It's not just the physical part, but just the psychological part. Well, this is the mom now.
Right.
I can't touch her that same way or whatever. So
I got over that one pretty quickly, but but it is true.
Yeah.
There is some psychological stuff that goes on where you're just like, same thing, like you don't want to hurt anybody. You're concerned about what's going on. So you got to tread that one too, tread that one lightly and have communication with her and, making sure that it's okay.
Yeah.
And I will say, not right after childbirth.
Exactly. I'm sure this.
Honey, it's been a week. What's going on?
Exactly.
That's not very sensitive if you're doing that. So you might want to.
Can't you snap back into place or something?
Yeah. Just communicate with her, and she's going to have the upper hand and control, if you will.
Yeah.
In that complete situation, you're not really going to have much say.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So just be supportive.
For sure.
Next one, number 9. How can I keep the child safe? Safety. That in general, and I've discussed this with a lot of guys, is making sure that your baby is safe. So not only just the health issues, but the safety of this baby, whether that is dropping the baby, you don't want to drop it. And I remember, when I first held my kid, my son specifically, because he was the first, I remember feeling how delicate he was.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, they're not. The babies are actually not
they're pretty resilient.
They're pretty resilient.
I mean, you don't want to test it by, throwing it up against the wall or
right.
anything. But
bad.
Right, exactly. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, they're actually, they're not a porcelain like teacup. They actually are, they are pretty strong and they are, but you don't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
And I remember
even when you hold it, when it first comes out, the baby, like you have to,
cradling it. Well, there's certain things with the head.
Wobbly and stuff. Yeah. So you got to make sure,
Yeah, absolutely. You're supporting the head and there's other things. So in that aspect, absolutely. Thank you for correcting that.
Yeah.
Is when it's a brand newborn. Yes.
Fresh out of the oven.
You have to support, but as it gets a little bit, more strength.
Yeah.
You just, and that's one aspect of safety. There's others of like it falling, it crawling. It never goes away. Actually, even with my kids who are 5 and 7, safety is constantly an issue that you think about. So where we, like as an example, we walked to school this morning, and my children were like, "Hey, can we run ahead?" Like because they wanted to run ahead and go into school.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hesitated because they haven't done that before. And I'm like, all right, okay, just stay on the sidewalk. And your immediate reaction, you're so protective of these little beings.
Yeah.
That every single thing, and now there are other parents who be like, yeah, go ahead. I don't care.
Hurt yourself.
I have a tendency to be a little bit more protective.
Yeah.
But learning to let those boundaries go.
Yeah.
And safety then goes into when they're climbing and they're playing and they're running and all of those things. Like, your child will be in like flip flops or sandals.
Yeah.
And it starts running in the downhill, and you're like, "That's not a good idea." Like you haven't been running for that many years.
Pretty sure it's not safe.
Yeah, you're probably there's such a high likelihood that you're going to trip.
Yeah,
probably not a good idea. And the worst is when you watch them in slow motion.
Yeah, and they're falling, they're careening down the hill. Yeah. I have thinking about how I stayed with my grandparents when I was younger, between the ages of 6 and 12, and they had raised a bunch of kids already. They raised 6 kids themselves. Then they had to raise me as a grandchild, and I was a good grandkid, but I remember one time I was riding my bike and I went full speed and tried to do a skid in the dirt, and I just did like 2 360s and fell off it. Had a cut around my knee about the size of my fist probably, and I wasn't really crying. I was probably like maybe 8 or 9, but I went home and go, Grandma, I cut myself. And she looked at it and went, oh, like it was like pus coming out. Like she goes, what were you doing? I said, I was riding my bike. And she's, all right, hold on. She's trying not to freak out. So she got the gauze out, like all kinds of stuff, dressed the wound. I mean, it was like a medical emergency.
My wife is really good because being a nurse, like
that helps.
Any of the wound stuff or her pain, like it doesn't faze her at all. She's very, very calm. I'm the one who had to like hold back, or like, I'm okay, like this is yours, you handle it, like, I mean, just because my first thing is to worry, like, is it broken? Is it blah, blah, blah,
freak out?
No, she's that's her department,
That's
like,
good.
Hey, that's good with, good with that. So, yeah, totally. But there's such a desire to keep them safe. It's like this, it's overwhelming, thing. I don't think it ever goes away. I mean, I think even into adulthood, it's like you always want your children to be safe and feel. It's just a question of like the rope that you give, and you have
trust.
You have to let them. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to get hurt. They're going to do that.
They're going to get hurt worse if you don't let them make mistakes.
So another one, number 10. How will I be able to maintain a work-life balance? That's a big one.
Yeah,
as they all are.
Right.
See episode 46 I had on our notes. We have a complete episode about work-life balance.
Right.
And the different techniques and the things that you can do for that.
Yeah.
That is something that is going to be crucial that, when my children, as an example, I was working at a place, and so I didn't have as much control over my time.
Yeah.
But especially my wife wanted me to make sure that I was there for dinner. So I had to look at it and go, okay, I need to maybe get in then an hour earlier so I can get out an hour earlier or whatever it was, and adjust that time. Because that was real crucial time for us. The idea that like we're going to have a meal together.
Yeah.
For other families, it might be something different, but it is having that balance, and you have to figure that one out, because I can tell you, if you don't, it will have an effect, not only on you, but on the kids.
Yeah.
It's simple. If you're not spending the time, and I got a future episode that's about this, about spending the time with the kids and how they will favor one over the other. And that's something that you're going to have to learn. And there are techniques. Like I said, there's our episode 46, or just learning that you have to have that balance. And typically, I don't know that it always is the case, but for me, having children forced me to do that. It forced me to have more balance. Whereas,
that's interesting.
Because, I still wanted to be an entrepreneur. I still wanted to have my own business and do all these things.
Yeah.
But I was forced, in a sense, to be like, okay, wait. I've got to reevaluate everything here. Like, really, what is important to me?
You poured probably so much more into work than your personal situation.
Yeah, in the past. Yeah, in the past.
Until you had kids.
And then it becomes, okay, you know what? At night, maybe it's not that important for me to do that.
Right.
Or it's certainly on the weekends, which becomes like for us is great family time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit at my computer.
Right.
It's just, that's my own personal choice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to miss stuff. I don't, that kind of thing.
For sure.
Unless there's some extraneous circumstance. But,
right.
But for the most part, that's kind of my own rule. And that it's not that it's been easy, because it is an adjustment. I mean, you're not used to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so you have to make those adjustments.
Right.
Number 11. By the way, there's 12 of these.
Okay.
So I guess I didn't say that.
Yeah. There's 86 tips.
It goes on for 6 hours. We can cut them. And
right.
Number 11 is everything we do, meaning with your wife, going to center around the baby or the kids.
Valid concern.
In the beginning, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right.
There are what happens though. Well, it's important you go on dates.
I see a lot of people like with their date nights. Like I have friends of mine on Facebook that have kids that are kind of relatively new kids, and then they're like
It's date night.
A big deal. It's date night.
Right.
Well, it's healthy with the date night. Yeah. So I was like, oh, geez.
They're out for an hour.
I do that every night.
Right.
Or I could, potentially.
Yeah. It's funny too. I had just mentioned this. We were at a brewery restaurant kind of thing over the weekend. And there were many younger adults, I say younger than me, who had very small infants or babies, like not even yet toddlers, who were at the brewery. And I was like, wow, I don't remember that many. It was during the day. It was a Sunday afternoon. Yeah. We brought our kids and stuff. Because it's a kid-friendly, dog-friendly place. And so a lot of like families and stuff are there, but it was interesting because maybe that's why they bring their babies to this place.
Sure.
But it was just seemed like much more. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. But I never thought when my child was 3 months old, I don't think I ever thought on a Sunday afternoon of going to a brewery. I just didn't think of that.
I'm with you because it's just odd to me. I think being in a brewery with a baby is kind of unusual to me because you're around a bunch of drunk people. You don't know what's going to happen.
The one thing would be is if one of the parents is sober, you got to make sure.
Yeah, you got to have a DD.
Yeah, you have to do that because obviously, and that was something early on too. Like I policed myself quite a bit when you're around your children and doing those kinds of things, and not simply. Even when your child's a baby, they don't know that you're drinking. It's not like you're
right.
But that ability to make sure you are alert and ready at any
happens,
time.
And also the context of a brewery, especially for people who maybe not be familiar, because San Diego has so many different breweries and they're very classy places to go.
Right.
There's beer.
It's like a restaurant.
But it's more like a restaurant just for beer. And so I'm thinking, I guess when my old school thinking thinks of it's a bar. It's some sleazy dive bar.
Bunch of smoke.
People's ass make it
We can't smoke anywhere around here. So that's the thing. California, you don't.
Right. Yeah.
There's no really smoke anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something about, is everything going to be centered around the kids? A lot of it is. You start changing. You realize that your single friends don't want to hear about your kids. Right. You start talking about the baby and everything's baby, and your friends that you do have that have babies, that's what your conversations are about.
Yeah.
And, it gets back to spit, throw up, and diarrhea. And it's like, hey, all of a sudden that's your conversation that you hadn't had since college,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or the frat house.
Full circle. Same thing.
Full circle. So, and then the last one, which really pertains to this podcast. Will I lose my dudeness? Or being a dude?
Yeah.
Whatever that may mean to you, that's, going out with your buddies.
That's really the impetus of you starting the meetup group. Right. And the reason why we're doing this podcast now is that kind of how you thought of it. It's just like, I used to be this single swinging dude. I used to do all these things. And now I'm a dad. Should that change?
Right. It does.
It does. It does.
You're
but you still have a good time. Once in a while,
no question. No question.
I think you have a good, healthy balance.
The frequency is less.
Of course.
I think I've said many times, I don't consider myself nearly as cool as I thought I probably was before. Right. Not saying I was. I think as I thought my perception.
Yeah.
But basically, your perspective, at least for me, my perspective changed on things. The desire to do something, and quite frankly, when you first have, you're just tired.
Yeah.
Your focus is different. It's like you're working, you really want to provide, you want to be there for your wife. It's like there's just the focus is a little bit different. And so the last thing for me was thinking, I'm losing my dudeness. I mean, there was some of that then kind of, once the sort of chaos tornado settles down, you then are like, I realize I haven't hung out with my friends for a while, alone with my friends.
Yeah.
Or, I miss doing X, Y, Z, or whatever. So that was something, I think you have to communicate with your wife or your spouse is, to still have your freedom and to still have some of those things, for both of you, that allows you to enjoy that time. For my wife and I, we both at that time went to the gym, but we couldn't go at the same time.
Right.
So that was a break that we gave to each other, and we say, okay, your turn, go.
Yeah.
And then we tag team and then, come back. And that was something that I was like, because either of us did not want to give that up.
Yeah.
And that's obviously an easy one for people to just go, oh, you know what? I got the baby. I can't.
Yeah.
But we said, no, you take him here, you take him there, and so that was something for us that really, and that was that's my meditation. So it's like, I've got to be able to do that.
For sure. So that's good that you kind of have that tag team effort where you kind of combine.
Yeah, for sure. You have to. So,
if
anybody has any comments questions, other things, other fears, podcast at dudestodads.com, Twitter, Dudes to Dads.
Dudes to Dads.
And Facebook, Dudes to Dads.com.
Dudes to Dads.com.
And any 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. That would be great. Anything else?
I almost merged them to Twitcher.
iTunes.
iTunes.
So yeah, I mean, there's no question that there are scary things. It's easy to have that fear when you're becoming a dad.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I think which this podcast is for, is to realize that you're not alone in that. Those thoughts.
It's basically a support network here, and it's every dad in the world.
Yeah, I mean, very few dads are like, yeah, I got it. No big deal. Yeah, I'm not worried about anything.
No, they're all worried.
I think you're lying if you do. You know, it's the macho-ness and the ego coming through, the testosterone. But you know, it's okay to have that fear and realize that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, if you're not afraid, like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush. You know, helps you cope.
Yeah.
So so good, you know, some good things to share with people. And you know, whether you share them online with us or, you know, share them with those close to you.
Yeah.
You know, be sure to, it's okay to talk about those.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. Like, make sure
talk with your spouse
about it.
That's the other one.
Right. Let them know that your concerns too. I know she's going to be like, well, I'm growing the baby, so
I'm not concerned about you right now.
But you can always share your feelings with them, and I'm sure they can empathize with that as well.
Right. So cool. Well, with that, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
Another week. We are going to see you next week.
Exactly.
All right. Take care.
Right. Take care. Have a good one.
See you.